Hey everyone, welcome. Today we're going to dive into one of the most fascinating subjects there is, ourselves. Yep, we're exploring the science of why we are the way we are. So, let's get right into it. I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about why you do the things you do? Or why you suddenly feel happy or sad or just angry? These aren't just late night thoughts. They are the exact puzzles that psychology tries to piece together. And we're going to explore some of the answers right now. All right, so every great journey needs a starting point, a map. And for us, our first stop is the big one. What exactly is psychology anyway? So, at its core, psychology is the scientific study of the mind and behavior. It's a huge field that looks at the whole spectrum of what it means to be human, from what's happening with the wiring in our brains to how we act in big crowds. It's really the science of our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. Okay, this is super helpful because it clears up some common mix-ups. See, psychology really zooms in on the individual. Sociology, on the other hand, zooms out to look at entire groups and social structures. And then you have psychiatry. That's a branch of medicine where doctors diagnose and treat mental health disorders. Psychology is unique because it's all about that scientific study of the mind, which isn't always about medicine. The quest to understand ourselves is not new at all. It actually started way back with philosophers like Descartes and Locke, who were debating things like, is the mind separate from the body? But then, bam, the whole game changed in 1879. That's when a guy named Wilhelm Wundt opened the very first psychology lab. And just like that, psychology was officially its own science. From there, the field just exploded with different schools of thought, shaping the amazing, complex science we have today. To get a grip on something as complex as the human mind, you can't just look at it from one angle. So, psychologists use what we can think of as 6 major lenses to view the same behaviors from totally different perspectives. Let's try looking through each one. So, our first lens is the psychoanalytic one. You've probably heard of its main guy, Sigmund Freud. I want you to picture an iceberg. The little tip you can see sticking out of the water, that's your conscious mind. But that massive, hidden chunk of ice underneath, that's your unconscious mind. And according to Freud, it's filled with all these desires, memories, and conflicts from your childhood that are secretly steering the ship. Okay, now get ready for a complete 180. The behaviorists came along, looked at all that unconscious stuff, and basically said, forget what's inside the mind, we can't see it, let's just focus on what we can actually observe. They believed our behavior isn't driven by hidden forces, but that it's learned from our environment. We do stuff that gets us rewarded, and we avoid stuff that gets us punished. It's a really direct and honestly a super influential idea. Then along came the humanistic perspective, which is just a way more optimistic take on, well, us. Humanists like Maslow and Rogers said, hey, we're all fundamentally driven to grow and become the best version of ourselves. They called this self-actualization. So this lens doesn't focus on what's wrong with us, but on our incredible potential for good and our freedom to choose our own path in life. The cognitive lens takes us right back inside the mind, but with a much more modern twist. This time, think of your brain as a really powerful computer. This perspective is all about the software, how we process information, how we store and retrieve memories, how we solve problems. It's all about trying to understand the mental code that runs our behavior. And if the cognitive lens is the software, then the biological lens is the hardware. This one connects everything we think and feel to our actual physical body, our genes, our brain chemistry, all of it. The classic, kind of gruesome example is Phineas Gage. He was a railroad worker who had a metal rod blast straight through his head. Incredibly, he survived, but his personality was just completely transformed. It was the shocking proof of just how much our physical brain shapes who we are. And finally, we zoom all the way out with our last lens, the socio-cultural one. This is a crucial reminder that, hey, we don't exist in a bubble. Our culture, our friends, our family, our society, they all have this incredibly powerful influence on how we think and act. To really understand a person, you have to understand their world. Okay, so we've looked at all these big, sweeping perspectives that help frame the entire field of psychology. Now, let's bring it all home. Let's get personal and use these ideas to focus on one of the most interesting topics of all, personality. What is it that makes you, you? So what is personality really? Well, here's the formal definition, but to put it simply, it's your unique and pretty consistent pattern of thinking, feeling, and acting. It shows up in all kinds of situations. It's like your personal signature, the thing that makes you recognizably you. Now, psychologists have a couple of main ways they think about personality. First, you have types. This is kind of like a light switch. You're either on or off. You're an extrovert or you're an introvert. But then you have traits, which is how most psychologists see it today. This is more like a dimmer switch. You're not one or the other. You fall somewhere on a spectrum with a certain amount of extroversion. And when it comes to traits, the undisputed king of all models is the Big Five. A really easy way to remember it is with the acronym OCEAN. This model suggests that the huge, vast complexity of human personality can be boiled down to these 5 core dimensions. Most of us land somewhere on the spectrum for each one, and it's our unique combination that really paints the picture of who we are. So, we've covered theories, models, different lenses, but you might be asking, okay, that's all interesting, but what's the point? Why does any of this actually matter in my day-to-day life? Well, that's the best part. It's incredibly practical. Understanding even the basics of psychology can help you build stronger relationships, become a better communicator, get a handle on your own emotions, and even help you achieve your goals. Seriously, this isn't just stuff for a textbook. It's basically a toolkit for a better, more well-understood life. And that brings us to the big final question that really sits at the heart of everything we've just talked about. When you think about all of it, your unconscious mind, your biology, your environment, your choices, what truly defines you? Is your personality set in stone by forces you can't control? Or do you have the freedom, the power to change who you are? Psychology gives us the lenses to explore that question, but ultimately, the answer is a journey that's all yours.